Herman Cain will likely get a lashing from some of his Republican challengers tonight, if not all of them. They'll be looking to try to squash his soaring popularity. One of those Republican candidates is joining me now live, the former Republican senator from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum. Senator, thanks very much for coming in. Why are you more qualified to be president of the United States than Herman Cain?
Well, it's interesting. I just heard Herman talk about Wall Street versus Main Street. Both of them, as, quote, business people, supported the Wall Street bailout, supported the TARP program, supported a huge government intrusion into the private sector, something that is antithetical to most conservatives and certainly most of the people I'm talking to out on the campaign trail. So you really need to look at someone who understands the consequences of our actions in Washington. And I've been in Washington, a long time. I was there 16 years. But you learn a lot from that experience. And one thing you learn is you don't give that kind of power to Washington and set a precedent that future presidents, in fact, did drive a truck through.
But both Mitt Romney and Herman Cain, a former governor of the Federal Reserve out in Kansas City, they both say that in supporting that TARP money, millions of Americans would have lost their entire savings if the U.S. would have let the banking industry down.
And look at what's happening now. Look at the housing market. Look at this economy. It has been on life support for over 3 years because we didn't let the marketplace work. These are guys who say they believe in the marketplace, and yet they were for the biggest government intervention in the history of our country. And what's happened is now government has much more control over the private sector. They complain about that, but they were one of the folks who authored that in and, in fact, encouraged that to be done. I knew enough, having the experience I had, that the last thing we needed to do was let the government try to micromanage the private sector on this managed decline. Let the markets do it. Now, would it have been more severe? Possibly. But what you wouldn't have had is government managing the economy as dramatically as it is now as a result of that program.
So these two frontrunners, Mitt Romney and Herman Cain, who's more qualified, from your perspective, to be president of the United States as a true conservative?
Well, I don't think either of them have great conservative credentials.
Either of them?
Well, you look at Herman Cain, and he's putting forward a brand new tax for the American public. I mean, a national sales tax, at the same time that we're going to have an income tax and a value-added tax, which he calls a corporate tax. That's not a conservative proposal, in my opinion. That's giving more tools for Washington to take more money from the American public.
He says most Americans would wind up paying less.
Most Americans will wind up paying more, because most Americans, right now, you have half of Americans who don't pay any kind of federal income taxes. They're all pay taxes.
So he's not a true conservative from your perspective?
Well, I would say that he has, the reason that I've been, as you know, Wolf, I've been sort of somebody who's been out there and interacting with the candidates, because I have the most consistent conservative record, and on whatever issue it is, whether it's moral cultural issues, whether it's economic issues, or whether it's national security issues, I've got a strong conservative record, a good background on all of them, and can be very aggressive.
So you're not sure that Mitt Romney is a true conservative either, is that what you're saying?
Oh, well, I think Mitt Romney is someone who raised taxes, someone who instituted gay marriage in the state of Massachusetts when he didn't have to. You go down and look at Romney Care, which is a huge government takeover, and it's just interesting that Deval Patrick, the new governor, the governor that succeeded him, says now we're going to get to the real job in Massachusetts, and that is cutting costs. So he even admitted that Romney Care was about increasing access to care, which of course is a function of higher cost, and they didn't deal with the cost issue. That's the problem with Obamacare. You don't deal with the cost issue.
So let's just be precise. Is Mitt Romney a true conservative?
I would say that I'm the most conservative in this race. I'm the most electable conservative in this race, and neither Romney or Cain is conservative as I am.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Herman Cain. Is Mitt Romney a Christian?
Look, I believe this whole idea that Mormonism is called, and look, every Mormon I know, with the exception of Harry Reid's a good, solid conservative and has great values, and I don't second guess anybody's religion. There's no religious test in this country. They're good people. They make great contributions to this country, and that is not a disqualifier for Mitt Romney.
Why has Rick Perry's campaign sort of collapsed the way it has?
Well, you got to be ready for the job. I mean, you have to have someone, again... He's
been governor of Texas for 10 years.
Like I said, you have to be ready for the job in Washington, D.C. A lot of folks out there who think they can come out and tackle these very, very tough issues without the experience necessary, without having been through, interviews with Wolf Blitzer, which isn't an easy thing to do. I've been doing this for a long time, and I think you need someone who you can trust, someone who's been through the crucible, who's been beat up, as you know I have for a long time in this town for being a conservative. That I think is the kind of mettle you need to have tested for someone who's going to take on Barack Obama.
Let's talk about your campaign right now. You have, what, $200,000 cash on hand?
That's plenty of money for me.
He's got like $15 or $18 million. Your poll number's not very impressive. Right down there, 2%. How are you going to change that?
Well, I would just say that if you looked at, a month ago, you'd have made probably the same comment to Herman Cain. This is a very fluid election. We're doing it the old-fashioned way. You know that. Well, when we're spending time in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, I've done 150 town hall meetings in Iowa. I've been to 70 counties. And we're building our base among the activists. And again, as you know, those are the folks who show up at the caucuses. They're the people who are going to be the ones who are going to cull this field. And we're doing the same thing in New Hampshire. We're working really hard in New Hampshire. Those are the first two primaries. And the polls right now don't matter. I remember John Sununu, Governor Sununu, told me when I first went up to New Hampshire, he said, work hard, pay no attention to the polls. New Hampshire breaks late. It's the last 2-3 weeks, then you'll see what'll happen. That's what we're counting on.
What are you doing to get ready for tonight's debate?
I'm doing Wolf Blitzer's show.
That's it?
That's it. Well,
are you rehearsing? You're practicing?
This is my rehearsal. How am I doing?
You're doing all right.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Senator, thanks. Good luck tonight.
You bet.
See you up on that stage. Jack Cafferty's here. He's got the Cafferty file. Jack.